Hey guys, it's Vesper Starwolf here with another video. So, for a while now, I've been wanting to do like book reviews in Fursuit, and I actually did record a video previously for this other book that I read, but I wasn't too comfortable with posting that particular review. There was already a review out there for that book that I watched, and so a lot of our points were kind of the same, and so it just felt like I was repeating stuff from that other review that I really like, because it's one of my favorite booktubers that did that. So I never did anything with that video, and for a while I thought maybe I just won't do book reviews, but then, you know, I still really do want to. I love reading, I love books and writing, and I actually do know a thing or two about, you know, books and stories and stuff. So, you know, I wanted to incorporate it more into my channel, so I decided that I still will do that kind of content, just not that particular book. I will probably be focusing my reviews on more indie books, like self-published works, because they don't get too much attention. Not everything, because I don't even know if the book I'm reviewing today is self-published, and I know the next one won't be, but, you know, I don't want to do, like, super popular books, like, you know, like the ones that everyone are going to be reading. I might, occasionally, but probably not too often. You know, like, I recently read Pet Sematary, but I'm sure everything that had to be said about Pet Sematary by Stephen King has probably already been said. So, you know, stuff like that I won't review, but we'll see what happens. You know, I might have the urge to review something. I do have a Stephen King book on my to-read list that I might end up reviewing, one of his newer ones, so we'll see. With that being said, the book I'm reviewing today is The Wild Ones. I actually have the ebook version. It's on my Kindle here. I really love the cover. It's by, the name is up here. I really don't want to mispronounce her name, but you can see it there, and I'll probably put it down here. Yes, so The Wild Ones is the first book of the Sinners series. I'm not sure how many books are going to be in it. Okay, first off, I just wanted to warn that this book does have some triggering content, like a attempted sexual assault and drug use, but I won't be really delving too much into it in this review. Anyway, it takes place after this sort of huge event where it became apparent that supernatural creatures exist, and they kind of live in society as a minority. They're referred to as supers, and as far as we know, there are two different types of supers. It is shifters and magicians. Shifters, little self-explanatory, they are shapeshifters, of people that shapeshift into animals. They usually only have one animal form that they can change into, but I believe it is possible, but very rare, for someone to be able to change into any animal that they wish, because it is also very hard for them to control their animal forms. And then the second one is magician, which is kind of your run-of-the-mill mage, magic users, you know, witches kind of thing. And there's different types that can do different kind of magics. It's been a while since I read the book, so I'm not quite sure what different types. I do know the one that the main character has. The book follows two main characters. Lewis, who is a red mage, I believe, which the red mages are kind of, if you've ever seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, they're kind of like the bloodbender. So, you know, they use blood magic, which is actually, in society, it's illegal to use. and anyone that uses red magic will be arrested because, as I said, the supers are like the minority group. They can be treated pretty poorly. And the other main character is Lucas, who is a college professor. He's a shifter that can turn into a tiger. He teaches some sort of shifter classes. The thing that happens that kind of starts the plot is in the beginning, Lewis, he is a lawyer, and a group of people that feel wronged by him tries to assault him, but he defends himself by using his magician powers. This is in like the first chapter, I think, so it's not really a spoiler, and it serves the plot, but he ends up killing them and is about to be thrown in jail because even though it was in self-defense, it's illegal to use that kind of magic. But he's approached by a government agency called the Supernatural Institute of National Security, or they call it SINS for short, abbreviated. And they also approach Lucas because, you know, he's actually like really good at shifting and controlling his tiger form. They're both approached for this organization for a kind of elite team. It's not really clear what it's for, but you know, they both accept because, you know, especially for Lewis, it means he doesn't get thrown in jail, and they end up in this like kind of isolated boot camp with a bunch of other shifters and magicians to kind of train their abilities and their powers. But it soon becomes apparent that not everyone probably agrees with this team, and some other outside forces are probably trying to sabotage it when some of the other trainees start to go missing and stuff. All the while, Lucas and Lewis, they don't get along too well, but they kind of have this like enemies or rivals to lovers type of relationship. So it's very back and forth as their kind of hatred for one another grows into like an affection. So I liked this book. It was fun to read. It was easy to read too. It wasn't like, nothing felt like it was dragging on forever. It only took me like a week or two to read through the whole thing. It was like one of those reads you can just sit down and like really get through it, you know? You know, the writing style was fine. It had a changing point of view. One chapter would be a Lucas point of view, and the next would be Lewis, and they would alternate. But they made it easy for you to tell whose chapter it was by the image they had at the top of the chapter. Like for Lewis, I think it was like a blood splatter, and for Lucas it was like paw prints, which I really liked that touch. It was just a nice little detail. I thought the concept of the plot was interesting, because I always like the idea of like exploring the concept of like, what if there are supernatural creatures in the world, but everyone's aware of them? I always like seeing different takes of that in stories and stuff. That being said, there were a lot of issues with the book. Nothing too like shattering that made me put the book down. Like I said, I read through the whole thing and I really did enjoy it. But they were a little too vague with what the Sins team was for. I mean, you automatically just assume like super soldiers and stuff, but they don't really dive too much into it. And the fact that they're at this like supposed government facility and people are missing, but they're left to deal with the issues by themselves. Like, instead of someone stepping in to be like, hey, we should probably solve this issue. Instead of trying to have our trainees that are still in training try and solve this issue. So there was that. There was a lot of characters that I wish they kind of delved more into, because it was kind of confusing. There's a lot, and a lot of different names, and I couldn't really remember who was who. There were a few characters that I really managed to remember, because they were more important to the plot, But the minor ones, every time they were mentioned, I was like, I don't know which one that is. So, but that's a thing that a lot of books kind of struggle with, I think. Even my own has a lot of characters, so it's just something that happens. But if you're gonna have a lot, they need to each have their own like little identifying quirks so you can remember who is who, at least in a little bit, you know. Another minor nitpick is that Lewis and Lucas names are very similar. With writing, you don't want your characters' names to sound too similar because it does get confusing for your readers. Like, some people say you shouldn't have two characters that have the same letter in front of their name. I personally disagree with that because you can only have so many names. I do agree that the name should sound relatively different, however, because Lewis and Lucas, they both start with L, they both have 2 syllables, and they both have like an S sound towards the end, so it does get jumbled up. A lot of the times I had to pause and really think about who was who. But luckily, like I said, those little images at the top of the chapter really helped me know whose point of view it was. But it's an issue you wouldn't really think about, but it is one that happens. The romance aspect was fine, I think. It probably could have used more build-up and development, but, you know, it's not a super long book, so you don't really have too much time for that with everything else going on. I think maybe the book could have benefited from it being just a tad bit longer to kind of just give more development to the characters and the plot. I think it would have really helped it out. Overall, despite the issues that it does have, I really did enjoy the book. And, you know, I recommend it if you kind of like just a good fantasy type of read that has like LGBT elements and stuff. Though I can understand that it's definitely not for everyone because, you know, like I said, there are some heavier topics in this book. But yeah, you know, if you do like shapeshifters and like magic and stuff, and if you don't care too much about slight issues with the plot or characters, then, you know, I think it's a fun read just to sit back and enjoy a story, you know? Yeah, I think that's it for this video. I definitely want to do more book reviews in the future. Let me know what you guys think. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!